Hello friends, how are you? Hope you are all well. So we were discussing about the ESG strategies, investment strategies. So continuing our discussion, what is the meaning of ESG exclusionary screening actually? Last time we were discussing about the ESG integrations. Now we are discussing and talking about ESG exclusionary screening, which means removal of the companies and sectors from an investment portfolio those contradict a client's social and moral values actually. What is the negative screening in ESG? ESG negative screening is broadly the process of finding and excluding stocks of the companies which companies whose operations are seen as unsustainable from an ESG standpoint. Next is what is the ESG inclusive investment? In ESG inclusive investment empowers the investors to support diversity, equity, and inclusion through deliberate investment choices that align with their personal principles, promoting inclusive social objectives and seek competitive financial returns as well. What is the ESG impact investment? The meaning of this particular strategy of ESG impact investment is ESG looks at the company's environmental social governance practices alongside more traditional financial measures as well. So, socially responsible investment involves choosing a disqualifying investment based on the specific ethical criteria. Impact investment aims to help a business or organization to produce a social benefits. Now, what is the meaning of ESG monitoring? ESG monitoring and reporting is the way that businesses monitor and disclose the data relevant to their on their ESG performance or environmental social governance performance. So what are the ESG matrices or monitoring matrices? ESG matrices are nothing but the performance indicators of a business's operations with environmental social governance issues to help to determine its performance and potential risks. So, organizational leaders may integrate principles of these areas into companies' policies, reports, and operations through analyzing or benchmarking studies. What is this ESG disclosure? ESG disclosure is a form of public reporting by an organizational management term about what? Its performance across a variety of environmental, social, and governance related issues. Why do companies disclose ESG? So, ESG reporting is the disclosure of environmental social governance data, and the purpose is, as I said earlier, to shed light on a company's ESG activities while improving investors' transparency and inspiring others also to follow the same practices. What is the transparency in ESG? The transparency in ESG means and it describes the disclosure of ESG relevant matrices by company, industry, sector. Companies benefit from increased ESG transparencies as companies with a strong ESG performance have demonstrated higher returns on their investments, lower risks, and better resilience during climate crisis as well. What does the transparency mean in sustainability? So, transparency is a fundamental component of good corporate governance and serves to build vital relationships of trust with the key partners of any business. So, to keep track of corporate efforts to achieve sustainable economic, social, and environmental development, which means sustainable development. What is the ESG framework? ESG frameworks are set of guidelines which will be helping companies to manage their ESG commitments. They also provide a direction, a roadmap on how to create ESG reports which are used to document and disclose ESG related progress so that you can easily trace and track the progress. ESG frameworks are created by various organizations including NGOs, stock exchanges, think tanks, policymakers, and the governments. Why is ESG framework so important for us? ESG is a framework that helps stakeholders to understand how an organization manages risk and opportunities around the sustainability issues. So ESG has evolved from the historical movement that focused on health and safety issues, pollution reductions, and corporate philanthropy. What is the ESG reporting framework? As I said earlier, ESG reporting standards and frameworks are crucial to provide consistent, regular, continuously, and comparable reporting of relevant ESG information. Several significant changes have occurred in the past years related to the ESG reporting, because we've seen a different kind of progress in the reporting frameworks or standards. There is one more term which is called the ESG committee. What is the role of the committee? What are the responsibilities of the committee? What exactly the ESG committee meaning is? The ESG committee or Environmental Social Governance Committee, the purpose is to support the company's ongoing commitment to environmental stewardship, health and safety, corporate social responsibility, corporate governance, and sustainability as relevant to the company itself. But what is the responsibility of ESG committee? The committee has some overall responsibilities like endorsing the ESG vision and goals set out on regular basis or ongoing basis, and monitoring the progress against the stated vision and goals, and reviewing any statutory performance obligations on sustainability or ESG issues. What is the role of the board in ESG? Overseeing, monitoring, overseeing how the ESG strategy aligns with the company's business strategy, and which is a job for the full board. But each committee also has ownership over the elements of ESG issues, some of the ESG issues, and so coordination and communication is a key for successful ESG strategy. What is an ESG review? What committee has to review? The ESG review is an annual analysis of the state of adherence by companies across the globe to ESG criteria, and it provides insights into significant ESG developments and presents research findings that inform different responsible investment strategy. There is a key term here. What is ESG risk? So ESG risk include those related to the climate change impacts, mitigation and adaptation, environmental management practices, duty of care, working in health and safety conditions, respect for human rights, anti-bribery and corruption practices, anti-corruption practices, and compliance to relevant laws and regulations. What is the ESG risk management program? An ESG risk management program allows the organization to develop a business model that is customized or tailored to manage various environmental, social governance risks. And the ESG risk management program, like environmental aspects, include climate change, reducing emissions, and sustainability in the supply chain or logistics, for an example. So how does ESG mitigate risk? The integration of environmental, social, and fair governance practices makes a company less vulnerable to what? Reputational risk, political risk, and regulatory risk, market risk, litigation risk, and thus leading to lower volatility of the cash flows and profitability. So doing the right things means you are less exposed in the long run. Why do ESG risks matter actually? So ESG risks are real, and so identifying and thereafter managing and mitigating them can help reducing the cost. Conversely, failing to identify, report, and manage or mitigate can lead to increase the cost as well. Now, what are the main challenges related to ESG? Transitioning your portfolio, making sense of the data, choosing the right product, emerging climate trend, companies engagement, stakeholder engagement, materiality assessments, understanding the materiality. These are some key challenges actually. So why ESG is so important to the companies? Now we understand. I hope we have discussed more details about ESG and its practices. So incorporating ESG is not only essential in risk approaches but has now been seen as emerging factor for financial growth as well. What is the ESG controversy? ESG controversies like investors can review companies' ESG disclosures but they also typically want to access the information that is not reported by the organizations and may indicate ESG controversies. And these controversies could include toxic waste, for an example, toxic waste spills related to the environmental side, human rights violation related to the social side, or corrupt CEOs or the top management. It's about the governance. Why is ESG reporting difficult? Because most ESG reporting is voluntary, and as a result, the facts can be inconsistent, subjective, and difficult to compare between the companies. What are the main challenges of ESG data analysis? The important challenges are there is a lack of data, so one needs multiple sources to feed into calculation formulas. Additionally, the time periods to which data relates might not be consistent across all data sets and therefore requiring normalization. So ESG scores and ratings are dependent on methodologies. So thank you very much for the discussion. Next discussion we will have very soon. Thank you.